It's time to dive into the plot. What's going to happen in this story? We have the characters set up, we have the setting, we know kind of what's going on in the world, and we know who's in the world. But now we're going to figure out exactly what happens. So, we are halfway through our full project of setting up this story. And right off the bat, I know this is going to sound weird, but we're not designing our story right this second. First, we're going to make the world a little bit richer. So the story is going to get some extra elements in it. So if let's say your character's in high school and the Olympics are just about to start, that kind of changes something if all of your characters are really big into a certain Olympic sport. We're going to set those types of things. I've got all sorts of ideas. They're on your sheets and they're on the screen right now, where we could have different things that are going to be happening in the world. Now, clearly these could be a big part of your plot, or they could just sort of be a way to enhance your setting. But let's add at least one or two things that is happening in the world, or it could have happened a year ago. Maybe there was a giant flood that they haven't quite cleaned up from yet. And so decide what you're going to add to the world. Also, I want you to place your characters on your maps. So if you have a map of a town, where is your main character live, and then where is the protagonist live, or where does the best friend live? If you set it into the map, as you start to make your setting, you can see how that could impact what they do. If walking to their character's house means they walk by something, now you've got a whole nother part of the story, and it'll help you develop a better plot. Once you have those two things done, we're going to plan what happens in the story. Plan the story's big climax. And I've got that right on the sheet if you have it. We have the introduction, which is at the beginning. You're talking about who the characters are and what they're in. You have events that are leading up to what's called the climax of the story. The climax is the big the boss fight, the overcoming the challenge, surviving the thing, whatever it is that you're going to have going on, that's the climax. And then the falling action is when they're dealing with what happened during the climax. So, a couple of pro tips. Many stories will have a twist. You think that the bad guy is the cat, but then at the very end you find out it was the dog all along. Twists can make it a lot of fun. Have fun when you're trying to make this. Make it so it's kind of interesting for you and for other people. Explore many different ideas. Like maybe the circus comes to town. How would that change things? You're going to kick around ideas until you find one you really like. Make the plot match the characters. If you talk about characters being super strong, then you should probably have some sort of plot that uses their strength. It shouldn't just be something that totally ignores it. And maybe a side character will reappear at the perfect moment to save the day. That often happens in stories. So that's another option. The sheet that you have, part 3, it's 2 parts. And so this first part, I have all those ideas from before. I've got this chart where you can just write it right on here, event 1, event 2, all the events that happens before your climax. What's the big thing? And then have a falling action. You can write it right here beneath event 1 and event 2 and event 3 if you want. The climax is like they have a big fight or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be a fight. And there's a second sheet that kind of helps you see all the other stuff that we had going on. So first we were going to place your characters in the maps, and we were going to also, it's an option that you may develop a schedule or calendar for your character. If you're going really in depth and your character is a high school student, you could have them write out their bell schedule and say, okay, they have chemistry, they have math, they have English. And as they go from class to class to class, you can start seeing, oh, they're going to walk by the cafeteria as they go from here to here. And just the more detail you put into your plot, the more interesting it's going to be for you to put it all together. This one's optional. So developing a schedule is optional. Then on a separate sheet of paper, it's optional to do it step by step. It is not optional to do it on here, but you should definitely have it step by step, the main points somewhere. But not optional would be to then start a new Google Doc and introduce the scene, or start a new Google Doc and write all the different chapter titles that you're going to have, because there's a lot that you could be saying just in your chapter titles. If the first chapter is called The Awakening and the second chapter is called the Twist, then you can start imagining your story in terms of chapters. So here are the two sheets. Start with placing your characters, but eventually you're going to get to making your plot, and you're going to make the actual document you might want to type into.